So recently, someone who uses the term high-value woman, high-value male, and calls themselves a psychologist has been getting canceled. Fun fact, this is actually the person who inspired my pseudo-intellectuals video about a year ago. It's actually starting to get a little bit weird how much my videos predict what's about to happen. But anyway, I digress. I have nothing to say on the cancellation that hasn't already been said, but I did want to talk today about the notion of like high-value woman, high-value man, specifically why a real psychologist is very unlikely to use these terms. Let's get into it. So the term high value implies that there's a hierarchy of value on which people lie, meaning there are high value people and there are low value people. Actual psychologists understand the reality that everyone has a different set of values and cultures have different norms of values. So there is not one metric of value that's universal. I prefer to use the term high quality when I'm referring to like what I personally consider a high quality versus low quality person, because to me, quality means we're talking about certain characteristics, whereas value means we're ascribing a quantity of worth to a human being whose worth cannot be quantified. So for example, what I consider to be a low quality person is somebody who's unkind, someone who exploits others, someone who doesn't put in the work to self-actualize their dreams, because some of my values include hard work, justice, kindness. But another person might consider someone low value or low quality if they're immodest, for example, if they value modesty because of their religion, for instance. We judge people based on our values as if our values are the universal laws of nature. But truly psychologically healthy people understand the relativity of everyone's values, and they're not trying to shove their value system down everybody else's throats. People who see human beings as lying on a hierarchy of value are typically quite high in narcissistic traits. These days, I almost never look at comments, but in my early days of having a YouTube channel, I used to, and there were a few comments that really stuck with me over the years. One of them was, I had mentioned in a video that everyone has intrinsic worth as a human being. And this person was commenting with outrage, how could you say that? No, people do not have equal intrinsic worth. Some people are inherently much more worthy than others. That stuck with me so much because it is such a narcissistic way of viewing the world. There's a content creator, I believe it's the Nameless Narcissist, who's diagnosed with actual narcissistic personality disorder, and he has a video about this.
For narcissists like me, everybody is ranked in a hierarchy, and it's very central to how we operate within the world. And despite the fact that these measurements vary from person to person, they all feel objective and obvious to us. Viewing the world comparatively through a hierarchical lens feels like the only way to view anything. If you ask any narcissist, who's better, this person or this person, just in a general sense, they are going to have an answer.
Although we all hold different values, and we can sort of rate people in accordance to our value system, psychologically healthy people don't think that some people have more worth than others. They understand that we're all human beings, we're all born with the same amount of right to compassion and human dignity and equality and all of that. For example, a child born into a wealthy family doesn't hold more value than a child born into an impoverished family. A person who's made mistakes deserves redemption and compassion just the same as somebody who's never hurt a fly in their life. People's behavior dictates whether they're living up to various value systems, say our value system, but every human being has intrinsic worth and deserves the same rights as everybody. Why do narcissists not understand this? Underneath their grandiose persona, narcissists are actually incredibly insecure. Now, a healthy person, when they feel insecure about themselves, they might treat themselves compassionately, or they might say okay, how do I become more like the person I want to be? But for a narcissistic person, when they feel insecure, they go, how do I delude myself into actually thinking that I'm way better than everyone else? How can I compare myself to other people and convince myself that I actually stand at the top of a hierarchy of people? For example, let's say that someone narcissistic is watching a classmate give a presentation and they're doing really well. Everyone else might be thinking wow, that person did awesome, good for them. The narcissistic person will feel a pang of shame and insecurity about themselves. They're going to compare themselves to that person, and they're going to try to convince themselves that somehow they're better than that person, that actually that person is wrong for XYZ reason. Actually, they're not that great. And they're going to either in their own head or behaviorally try to put that person down. So beware of people who are constantly comparing themselves to others and constantly trying to rank human beings as if they're like objects rather than human beings. Another reason why I think the term high value is complete rubbish is it implies that people can be bought. And specifically when women, specifically like divine femininity coaches, use the term high value with regards to dating, they don't realize that they're using the exact same logic that people use when talking about sex work. The implication there being that like some women are expensive and other women are cheap. And you should try to be expensive instead of saying like, hey, I'm actually not an object that can be bought. You should just try to be more expensive. Have men sort of buy access to you through expensive gifts, designer bags, paying for your rent, paying for 100% of your dates, so on and so forth. So before I go into something a little bit more dicey, which is the way in which using these terms can be akin to the commodification of women, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, AccuFlow. AccuFlow is one of those things that can actually help you achieve good self-worth by helping you do the things that you set out to do. It maximizes productivity and efficiency and reduces procrastination. It's basically a one-stop shop for time blocking and linking all of the integrations that you use throughout your day for work, hobbies, and whatever else. So let me show you how my current schedule looks. It looks very different these days than it used to. So it looks like I'm a little bit behind schedule. I did already have breakfast, practiced my Italian, got ready to record, but now I'm just starting to record when I should be finishing up with it. This is one of the time slots that I have on my schedule, and then I have different tasks within it. How to destroy a marriage is not what it sounds like. It's a video I have coming up on what I would do if I wanted to destroy my marriage. Sounds a lot more evil than it is. You can color code it, so I like to put all my meals in green because it's just like immediately makes me think of health and nature. You can easily duplicate something. So look, if I were to duplicate this and then move it to another day, that would be super simple. There are also notification features which remind you about the next task that you have coming up. You can also categorize tasks into either labels or tags. I can update how much of a priority something is to me, like say this is medium priority. Here they have Aki, a new AI assistant. You can also make sure to link all of your integrations that you use. There's also a rituals button where you can either get started for the day with a ritual or wind down for the day when you're done. And there's also a statistics feature that shows you how you're managing your time, which helps you be more efficient. You can also use the command bar for basically anything you want to add. They also have one-on-one productivity coaching available, and there's also an onboarding call available when you sign up. So if you actually want to have good self-worth, the best way to accomplish that is to do the things that you want to do, and AccuFlow is a great tool to help you do that. Use the link in my pinned comment and description to give it a try. Now, some might argue we all have a price, right? Like when we're dating, if somebody doesn't treat us with respect or with loyalty, then they don't get to have access to us, so maybe that's kind of the transaction. And I would agree that when we're talking about access to us as a human being, there is sort of a transactional nature of like, hey, you give me reciprocal respect and blah, 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 and I will allow you into my life. But when we're talking about the context of dating in particular, and a lot of these content creators too, they talk about like dating for marriage and abstaining from sex until marriage. And that's where it starts to become very muddy, that what you're really talking about isn't buying access to your presence, but rather buying access to your consent. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think consent can be bought. I think true consent is intrinsic, meaning you actually want to engage in that act regardless of any extrinsic secondary gain you might get from it. Do you know that when you're a researcher, you can't offer potential research participants too high of an incentive, like more than say a $20 gift card or something like that, because it's considered coercive, because they might not actually want to participate in your research study if you offer them like $100, $200, $1,000. It's considered coercive. It's not entirely consensual. I think it is inherently traumatizing to engage in acts that are not intrinsically consensual, that you are participating in primarily because of extrinsic rewards. So to me, when I hear you have to be a high value woman by making it more expensive for men to be around you in this and that way, all I hear is the objectification and commodification and quantification of women's worth. So that is why I would be very wary of anybody who is using these terms, because firstly, it's very in line with the way narcissistic people think, and secondly, it's very objectifying. What do you think about all this? Let me know down in the comments and see you soon.